Hi, folks. Many of you know that Gallagher, the comedian, has passed away. And we generally do this when someone I have interviewed passes away. We did this interview, Gallagher and I, on January 27th, 2011. We posted it 4 days later. And when a former guest has died and their episode is behind the paywall, which this is, there's a lot of episodes that aren't, but this one still is. We want to make sure people can hear it and don't have to pay for it. And this one's a unique interview because it's really the first time where a guest has died and, frankly, might not want this episode remembered. But it's an honest representation of who he was 11 years ago and also who I was. Most of the intro is self-explanatory, and since this interview, I've set out, and I had set out then as well to sort of give people the respect they deserve and contextualize them into the history of comedy. It usually revolves around the Comedy Store. There's conversations in this episode about Tom Dreesen and Alan Bursky, both people who I had not interviewed yet and did not know the full story. My education was still unfolding, and I got this opportunity to talk to Gallagher in a hotel room in Portland, and I took it, and I tried. Now, the thing went sideways pretty quickly because he's a singular type of person. And right out of the gate, it became not contentious, but I was just trying to have a conversation, and it got intense, it got argumentative. But in the middle of all this, we had a conversation about what you can and can't say when you do comedy, which is a hot topic now, has been a hot topic before. This is 12 years ago, before woke and unwoke language, cancel and no cancel. This is way before all that, but the conversation is the same conversation, and we got into it because he had gotten a reputation for being, a bit of a bigot and a bully and doing old, horrible, racist and gay bashing jokes. And I brought it up, but I really, I listened to this thing and I laugh. Not in a bad way. Looking back on it, I have empathy for the guy. There was really nobody like him. And I'm sort of not sorry it went the way it did, but had I done it later in my career as a conversationalist, it might have gone differently. I don't know. But he was a singular person, a one-of-a-kind act, an opinionated guy. And I kind of love this interview, even though I don't know that it makes me look great. It definitely doesn't make him look great, but I love it. And, he was an important entertainer to a lot of people. And I spent a lot of my life, mocking him and condescending to, his way of doing comedy. But after all is said and done, he was an interesting, aggravated, stubborn old guy. And now he's gone and we have this conversation. So this is it. Enjoy me and Gallagher. Gallagher wanted to come on the show. I'm not sure he wanted to come on the show, but his manager contacted my manager. He lives here. Gallagher was in town doing an event, and his manager wanted him to do a guest spot on my show, which I decided against. I didn't see how that would be good for anybody. I don't know him. I don't have any experience with him. I don't know what he's doing now. And obviously, I've only heard negative things about him recently. I know what he is. I know what he does. I didn't have any particular problem with him. I do not think I would have asked him to be on the podcast otherwise if he hadn't approached me through his representation, or if they hadn't approached me without him knowing it, whatever the case may be. I'd been asked to have him on after some articles came out not long ago in The Stranger and the Onion AV Club, talking about Gallagher, his recent performances, his racially insensitive jokes, his homophobic jokes. He seemed to have been getting in the alternative culture. I don't know how far it's really spread. I imagine it's picked up some steam, that he was some sort of right-wing whack job with a racist agenda or a homophobic agenda. And, sadly, after I re-listened to what happened between us, that's what I went on. I did want to, put him into the context of comedy, into the history of comedy, to appreciate what he did, because despite whatever you may think of him now, I know a lot of you people out there listening probably loved him when you were 11 or 12. He had a tremendous career in show business for doing what he did. He is a household name, as is his brother, for stealing his brother's act, or at least not stop doing the act after his brother said not to. I don't really know. I was going to get into that stuff. I wanted to get into a lot of stuff since I had the opportunity, but I'm not sure I handled it well. I started to have the conversation when I saw the moment to seize the conversation and talk about some of the recent controversies. It kind of went off the rails, and he left my hotel room. So he stormed out of my hotel room. It was perfectly, I don't know if I would say pleasant, but it was. I really was not trying to offend the guy, but in listening back to it, in order to get a word in edgewise, I was fairly argumentative. I had no real agenda to tear him down or anything. I was just trying to ask questions. And because of his elevated tone, my tone elevated. And in retrospect, after listening to it, I sort of felt not necessarily bad, but it made me think about a lot of things about comedy. It made me think about how the arc of anyone's career may still be disappointing, no matter how much success you have. The desperation at a certain point in one's career can be very daunting, to the point where you just don't understand why you're in the position you're in. But again, I'm being empathetic because in listening to the thing, I think I was a little bit aggressive. I will take responsibility for that, though I thought some of the stuff we talked about was interesting, because you guys know me. I try to enter these conversations in a genuine way. I just wanted to have a real conversation with him. I wanted to afford him the respect that he deserved as a guy who had a career in show business. Look, comedians are different. There are clowns, there are comics. It's fucking show business. And as I said before, many of you probably loved this guy when you were a kid, but the audiences that he still has, I'm sure he had them when they were kids, but maybe they didn't grow up. Maybe he's a clown, and he's a comedian. And, he's fucking Gallagher. And he's a guy that's on the other side of his career. And listening to the interview I did, or tried to do, or got halfway through, I certainly didn't mean to stoke the fires of somebody who's in this position of, trying to regroup without, maybe not having as much hindsight or self-awareness as he might want, and being sort of crucified for what he thinks is a stupid thing. But it did bring up a lot of talk about, when is a joke insensitive? I mean, it's just, there's this idea around doing certain jokes that are clearly bullying, that are clearly minimizing, whether the joke's about gays or blacks or whatever. There's a way to do that stuff, and there are people that have license to do it. Does everybody have the license to do it? Of course. Is there a price to pay for it? Sometimes. Can you please everybody? No. Can you entertain everybody? No. I mean, ultimately, it's going to be what's in your heart. How do you treat other people? What do you feel about other people? Do some of those jokes reveal hypocrisy? Absolutely. But there's this argument that is sort of made in this conversation that I had with Gallagher, that what you do as a comic is release aggression. You ease aggression. That you disarm things. And I think that's true. But I think that there's a deeper level to it, too, that you also reveal hypocrisy, that you satirize extremes in order to make a point about society, about culture, about how we see the world. I agree with all that. But at some point, if you're doing jokes that hurt people, okay, fine, you could say, well, they're babies, they can't take a joke. Well, maybe they've been taking that joke their entire fucking life, and all they hear it as is pain and attack. Or all they hear it as is you're saying that I'm less than because I am who I am. And that's a reality, too. Are those jokes bad? No. Can they be done well? Yes. But this idea of disarming anger through humor, I mean, it's almost a difference between saying, like, I've got a gangrenous sore on my leg, but I'm just going to put lotion on it, as opposed to treat the infection. I'm just going to put lotion on it because it feels better. I'm just going to remain in denial that I might lose my fucking leg. It's the same thing. At a certain point, maybe we don't need any more fucking lotion. I mean, at some point, something's got to go deeper, and obviously it's not everybody's responsibility. And I wasn't trying to attack this guy as much as I was trying to figure out where the fuck he was coming from. Look, I was excited about it. You know, he came to my hotel, and when he got here, I met him in the lobby, and I realized that he really didn't know what he was getting into. I don't think he knew what a podcast was. He asked me, is this live or what? And I'm like, no, it's a podcast. He's like, a what? And I'm like, okay, this is where we're at. And then I tried to be a good host. I said, do you want some coffee? There was no coffee. You know, I mean, we went over to where the coffee was that they put out in the morning. It's not there. I said, look, I'll buy you coffee. We'll go up to the room. You need a drink or something. And then the funniest thing was, he's Gallagher. You know, he's been living this life that I'm living right now in my hotel room for 30 years. He started walking around the lobby. He's like, wait a minute. And he looked down the hall, and there was a banquet hall. And, he's like, come here, I'll show you something. So we're walking down this banquet hall that looks like it was set up for an event. He goes, if we're real cool, if we're real quiet, we can just go in there and just get some coffee. But you got to be cool. And I'm like, yeah, I know this trick. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. Is this coffee for everybody if you get caught? But there was no coffee there. So we came up to my room, and he ate some chocolate chip cookies that one of you made, and we had this conversation. So here is half of what would have been a whole interview with Gallagher from Portland, Oregon. I'm here with Gallagher in my hotel room in Portland, Oregon. You're doing what tomorrow?
Nothing.
What's the gig?
Oh, there's a TV show for some kind of a jazz festival that Craig puts on.
Yeah. Who's Craig?
Well, he's the guy that's been working with me, helping me to get some opportunities in show business. These kids are all so young, they don't know who I am.
Is that true? I think everybody knows who you are.
No.
I don't think they put you into a proper perspective, but I think everyone knows who you are.
You do?
Of course they do. I think that the name itself may have different connotations to people. It may not be what you want, but I think everyone knows who you are. I would find it bizarre if someone didn't know who you were.
Well, why don't I have my own TV show then? If I'm a well-known comic, shouldn't I have a talk show, a sitcom,
well, let me ask you
some
something.
kind of reality show?
You have had more...
Why doesn't my phone ring?
Well, it's been a long time, Gallagher.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
so what?
But you have had
are you going to tell this comedy audience that comedians get old?
No, I'm
They're not effective.
But how many
and
specials
they lose
have you
their
had?
chops.
How many specials have you had?
14.
On Showtime and HBO?
Yeah, from the 80s to the middle of the 90s.
So I
haven't performed as long as I did perform.
You have had an incredible career by most out. If you were to look at your career, you're a household name. You were mythic in the 80s.
Oh.
Everyone fucking knew who you were. So let's go back, because I was a doorman at the Comedy Store. Now, where did you come from? And how did you find your way to the fucking Comedy Store?
Remember the doorman that was the father of that kid who wasn't that great of a comic, so he became an agent?
I don't know. That's before my time. I mean, I was a doorman in 87.
Alan Bursky. Mr.
Alan
Bursky. You don't remember Mr. Bursky?
Freddie Prince's gun was rumored to belong to Alan Bursky. That's how he fits into the myth.
Rumored? Of course it was.
Why do you say that?
Because Alan liked guns, and he played around and with the two of those guys were friends, and sure. But you can get guns in L.A. I'm not going to blame Alan.
Anyone can get a gun in this country.
In L.A. But a funny thing happened one day. You know that Mr. Bursky lived in this apartment house, and every time something was open, he would suggest it to one of the comics down at the store, and he filled the place up with comics. Now, that comic that did like 60 Tonight shows but didn't get to be the host. This is how I talk now that I'm old.
Sammy Shore.
I can't remember anybody. Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen. Okay.
Tom did like 60. Everybody thought he was going to be the new Johnny Carson because he wore a suit.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of...
He's still around, right? He opened for Frank Sinatra, too. Or am I
which
thinking
was
of
the
somebody
kiss
else?
of death, just like my Sledge-O-Matic. It takes you out of town, and you come back, and guys that aren't as talented as you and don't have an act and can't have a career all of a sudden get a TV.
Let's start at the beginning. Where'd you start?
No, Tom Dreesen needs to go. Mr. Bursky's having a heart attack.
Right.
And Tom says, I'd like to stay, but I'm doing the Tonight Show. And so, of course, Mr. Bursky understood. Isn't that the craziest show business?
Yeah, very selfish.
Go on,
very selfish.
Do another. Yeah. Oh, we got to do it. It's the Tonight Show, which used to be a real bottleneck for comedy. You had to be on the Tonight Show, and you almost had to have Johnny like you and call you over to the desk.
How long did it take you to get on the show?
a long time because Johnny didn't like prop comics, but he's a magician. Figure that out.
I understand.
Boxes and silks and bunnies and
But
cards.
that's on TV.
Well, he shouldn't have ever said that. But they would let me on if I... You know what I did?
What?
I made up a routine about The Tonight Show called The Tonight Show Home Game.
Yeah.
I put Johnny in a little suitcase, and when I opened it up, he popped out, and you pulled one string, and he touched his tie, and the other string, he threw his pencil. I showed this routine to the set director.
Yeah.
Because he was a partner with the guy who owns the Magic Castle with this club in Santa Monica, the Mayfair Music Hall where I was appearing.
Right.
And he said, I want you to come into a production meeting, do this little routine and leave. Don't talk to anybody. Just do what you just did and leave. And it got me on the show.
And you did how many?
I must have done about 9 or 10. I could be on with a guest host. So I was on with Kenny Rogers because I was his opening act
David
for a
Brenner?
year. I don't think I was on with, no. I was on with comedians. Well, I guess those guys are comedians too. Joan Rivers, I think, one time. And see, you keep making me come up with people's names.
But I'm curious about where'd you come from and how'd you start? Why comedy? I mean, because you're a fairly defined act. I thought you might have been a street performer, but you're not.
No.
You never came from that.
No. No, I was watching comics and I felt like I could do it better, and so I just started and I did it.
But what was your first job in show business?
Opening for Kenny Rogers.
Oh, really? So the country music world?
I just stayed in L.A. and did talk shows and pretended I was famous.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that if you're on the talk shows, everybody thinks you're famous.
So you just act like
and
you're
I
famous.
met Kenny Rogers' manager there, and he said, I'll let you open for Kenny for a year. 100 shows at $5,000 a night. It was a $500,000 deal.
And was he a good guy?
The manager
Kenny.
Or Kenny?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to tell tales.
No? Yeah. So now, who was in the...
Well, he almost fired me. The first night, I told a prick joke. But
about a prick or that someone is a prick?
Well, about the Iranians, because it was the time of the hostage crisis. And the first job was opening this 14,000-seat auditorium in Dallas, Texas, the Reunion Center.
Yeah.
That was the first job on Mother's Day. And his mom drives in from Conroe.
Yeah.
And I say, why can't you circumcise an Iranian? You can't. There ain't no end to them pricks. And you get a big reaction from a Texas audience.
Right.
You know, because they're real pro-American. And so he wanted to fire me the first night.
And that was it?
Yeah.
But you stayed on.
I stayed on.
How'd you apologize?
I didn't.
Come on. You
When
must have
it gets a
groveled
big
little bit.
cheer?
Yeah, but
no, I wasn't sorry. I did my job right.
Uh-huh. By
He's the one that brought his mommy. Brought your mommy to the show for criminy.
Well, who was in your class at the Comedy Store? Were you there with Letterman?
I saw everybody.
Was 1970?
I was there before it was the Comedy Store. I saw Sammy make a deal with
Sammy
Art
Shore.
LeBeau.
Yeah.
And I saw Mitzi sitting with a cigar box at the front door taking door money.
Right.
And Art got the drinks.
Right.
I talked to her through the whole business when she bought the business from Art LeBeau. Then when she wouldn't give the comics any money and she bought a mansion
Did you strike?
nearby, that we met at my house.
Yeah? So you were a union organizer?
I was, let's share the wealth. Why would guys come down here?
So you have a
and
socialist
do a
thread in you.
show?
Who would know? That
It's
ahead.
not socialist.
I'm making a
Only
joke. Can I
in
make a
L.A.
joke?
do they think you should work for free.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys met at your house, and who was in that crew? Jeff Altman,
Jay Leno came by.
Jay Leno.
But he was just laughing at us. Jay always said, just take whatever money they'll give you.
Yeah, I see. I tend to agree with you on that. I think working for nothing.
For
even if it's a
some
little bit.
reason, Jay Leno and David Letterman knew they were going to have a talk show. Somehow they had an inside track.
Do you think it was an inside track or just focus?
And it didn't matter whether they had an act or not. You know, Jay's act was very forgettable. And he ran around just like Tom Dreesen, opening for washed-up old singers. You know,
but isn't that just a career trajectory? I mean, if you're up there, doing what you do, I mean, your idea was not to get a talk show. I mean,
I wouldn't have minded a talk
No,
show.
but I mean, it
thought
was-
if you can be a good live performer, you ought to be able to sit down and talk.
But where do you fit interviews in between, dancing around and smashing shit?
Well, how did Jay and Dave get good at
They
interviews?
stood still and they wore a suit.
Oh, and they're really good at interviews. Jay
I-
says you used to
I'm not
model before you got
I-
into acting. I
I-
practiced that. You used to model
I'm
before
not saying,
you got into
I'm
acting.
not saying
Why
that
can't I have the
I'm-
Tonight
I
Show?
am not defending Jay Leno. I'm just saying that your career, your decision in the type of showman you were going to be was different than theirs.
No, it wasn't. I got jobs and had to leave town. And for some reason, they had this inside track. Dave used to say to me, I don't need to have an act. I'm going to have a talk show.
Right, because that's what he wanted to do.
Well, they gave him one out in L.A., and it bombed terrible.
But did you want to do a talk show?
I wanted to make big money.
Okay, well, that's different. So you chose your
Well,
angle.
I can
you
do
made big
any-
money.
Uh-huh.
Didn't
I
you?
did it the hard way, though. I sold a live ticket. And
That's right.
How'd you like to sell a live ticket in a downturn?
I'm about there. I mean, I'm still, doing stand-up.
Well, I have my pulse on the economy because I get a call all the time.
Is that the economy calling now?
I don't know.
Isn't that your phone?
I guess.
So let me just go back. Now, in the beginning, for you, when you decided you were always a prop comic, and I'm not negating that, but the Sledge-O-Matic was what turned it around, right?
It was the first routine I wrote. First. It was the reason that I considered comedy is because I did so well with my first routine.
Which was the Sledge-O-Matic.
Yeah, I was watching the Vegematic guy on TV, and I thought, well, why do they chop it up when you're going to chew it? Mm-hmm. And I said they ought to just hit it with a hammer.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that veg and sledge rhymed, and
Yeah.
so I wrote the routine. I sent it to George Carlin.
Yeah,
George wrote me back and said he writes all his own material.
that was it.
He just said I write all my own material.
But he did write you
was nice
back.
enough to write me back. Albert Einstein did not.
Albert Brooks is
Right.
yeah. You wrote Albert Brooks with the Sledge-O-Matic.
I sent it to both.
Yeah, and Albert didn't write back.
No.
So why were you sending it off? You were performing already, or you hadn't
No,
started?
I wasn't a comedian. I was a chemist.
You were a chemist?
Yeah.
What was your future plan then? Crystal
I was
meth?
gonna save the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, one way or another, with my creativity. Creativity can be in any field.
How did you
I've got
see your-
patents now. I use my creativity to invent things instead of make props.
How did you see yourself saving the world with chemistry? What was your what would you want to do?
Well, cancer research,
Yeah.
or it could have been energy.
Was the path just too long for you at the time? I mean, did you not
I
want to?
got diverted with this damn lucrative comedy thing. But I still meet with physics departments as I travel around the country.
About what?
Well, I talk to them about subatomic particles and how we could make the whole field more approachable to the average person. People are exposed.
Make it approachable to me because I don't understand. It's vague.
Okay, what's going through your head right now as you receive cell phone calls? A photon or an electron?
I'm going to choose electron.
You think you're being hit by lightning. Do you see? We don't understand the technology that we use, and we don't know the risk that we're taking with our bodies, our DNA. An electron has weight. Like
Is it a
bowling
photon or
ball.
electron?
It's a photon.
Okay.
It has no weight,
So I
so
failed
it
that
has to
test.
be at a very high frequency
Yeah.
to break your DNA. That's what cancer is, broken DNA.
Right. Renegade cells.
Renegade DNA.
Right. Renegade DNA. Looking for a body. Trying to build a body for itself.
No, it's been turned on.
Okay.
The switch has been turned on for it to replicate cells, and it goes out of
And
control.
so without an organic complex, it makes tumors. A
Without
context.
any organization,
Right.
it makes a tumor.
Okay.
It's actually healthy cells,
Right.
new cells in a gob that are unorganized.
And now what? What
I
is
want
this?
the kids. These kids study Pokemon cards, and they
It's a little
learn.
dated, but I get
they
your
learn
point.
the powers and characteristics of meaningless things.
That's right.
Instead of what's a photon, an electron, a neutrino, an up quark, and a down quark. So I want to make a boy band or a basketball team, a cartoon show. I had the rights to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This isn't the first cartoon project.
You have the rights to them?
I met them when they first started.
The original band?
Eastman and Laird
Yeah.
were these guys in New England, And they had this idea, and they showed me the drawings, but they had no story ideas. And they did their career backwards. They sold the toys first, so they couldn't get a movie deal. So I got the movie rights.
So you made some money off of that?
No. We made a deal. Well, actually, I did with Golden Harvest.
Which was a production company?
Raymond Chow.
Yeah.
And,
I remember that guy.
Right. Well, he put the money in the Netherlands Antilles. You had to get a Dutch lawyer to chase it down.
So you got screwed.
I didn't get any money.
All right, so now you want to teach the kids that they're getting tumors from their cell phones.
I want them to understand what women, too, when they put their breast on a plate to have a breast exam, what is it, a CT scan? Is it magnetic resonance? It's an electron. PET scan has electrons.
How do you feel about the full body scanners?
Are they projecting electrons?
Do you opt out? Do you get the pat down?
Oh, you mean at the airport? No, there's nothing harmful there.
In the full body scanners?
No.
How do you know?
Because I know.
What do you mean?
It's not electrons.
It's all about electrons.
Yeah.
So you're actually concerned with the health and awareness of people in this world.
We use technology before we understand it. Drugs also. Some people are
I agree
killed
with
by
that.
they find out. We guinea pigs. We just accept what's new and see if it hurts.
Now, my question to you then is that, you have this streak where you're a progressive thinker, you're a creative thinker. And I think that on some level, in retrospect, you can see the Sledge-O-Matic as a commentary on consumer culture.
It was a satire.
Okay, I understand
the
that.
The problem is the fights at a hockey match, right?
Yeah.
My act was a hockey match, and instead a fight broke out and everybody came back for the fight, or the wrecks at a car race.
Right, there was an anarchy to it. You
they
focus
just
your
wanted
anger
the smashing and didn't care about my insightful satire.
Okay, well now
buying meaningless things.
Now we fast forward to where we are now, and
Yeah.
you've got this reputation of being racist and
Racist?
and a homophobe. There are jokes you do that are a little vicious.
They
a
are
lot vicious.
not.
Why do you have?
I've watched these Comedy Central roasts, and I don't.
Well, a roast
say
is a context.
anything.
There is a context to that.
Context. And what's my problem? There's no context in a comedy show?
No, there's a context, but I'm just saying that when you attack gay people or you attack
attack?
Yeah,
I don't attack them.
Yeah, you make fun of them
Well,
in
wait
a very
minute.
aggressive
Okay, let's
way.
say I tell a joke about a white middle-class man. Does anybody say, why do I not like white middle-class
Well, I think that's
men?
a false.
Why?
Because it is. Because
it's one area of our society is sensitive and can't take a joke. And what am I making jokes about? I'm making jokes about people who don't complain.
Well, tell me some of your jokes about homosexuals, just out of curiosity.
I don't have any jokes about homosexuals, but I might tell a joke. Yeah. I haven't written any. I tell jokes somebody else wrote.
What are they?
What do you mean? What are my really good homosexual jokes?
Yeah.
What does Siegfried have in common with the tiger? They both know what Roy tastes like. Why don't lesbians lose weight? You can't put Jenny Craig in your mouth with Mary Kay on your face. I mean, they're jokes.
But how do you feel about
homosexuality? It's a nightclub.
I understand what you're saying. It's a nightclub for your particular audience. Now, if you were
audience?
Sure. If you were to do that here in Portland in a particular audience now, or in Seattle, just out of curiosity. I'm not attacking you.
Now, remember, I did work in Portland recently.
Well, yeah, and who came out?
All my fans. It's
right,
a
okay.
nightclub.
It's your fans, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's specific.
Well, it has nothing to do with what their opinion is about homosexuals.
You sure? You don't think you're feeding a fire of intolerance at all? I mean, I'm just asking.
By repeating a joke I heard on the street.
Well, I mean, you got to take responsibility. You're saying it. I mean, I understand it's a street joke, but some of those are pretty awful, too. I'm just saying that you're pigeonholing
How could
a group.
you...
Why make fun of them?
Huh?
Why make fun of them in that way? Why minimize them and their way of life?
Minimize?
Sure.
Well, can I pick on Arabs?
Can you? I mean,
can I? Well, where are you drawing the line?
Where does it come from? The
what
joke.
Do you mean?
What is your
They're
incentive?
the enemy. I've got to do
all Arabs. All Arabs are the enemy.
For some reason, I got to be at the airport 2 hours early.
That's because some specific people of Arab descent, did something awful.
Well,
so
are
all
there
Arab...
just some homosexuals that can't take a joke?
Well, I'm just saying that
And so we
to
can't
generalize.
tell any
No,
homosexual.
to generalize.
Here's what the problem is.
It's about tolerance.
There'll be a homosexual comedian who will stand on stage and talk about straight people all night.
Is that
long.
true?
Of course.
I've only heard homosexual comedians talk about their gayness.
Yeah. Well,
And
isn't that the same as?
But isn't that empowering? And if you come up there and say these fags,
and I can't talk about my straightness.
You can.
Well,
but do you have to make fun of homosexuals in order to do that?
Here's what comedy is. It's a reversal.
Uh-huh.
Why did they always give the funny line to the kid in a sitcom?
Tell me.
Because it's not right that the kid is smarter than the parents. It's wrong. It's a reversal. So having a female spirit in a male body or a male spirit in a female body is a reversal. It's God's joke.
Okay, I understand that you believe in God.
How do you
believe in God?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Now let me say something else. So now my question is,
look, I'm a comic. I don't believe in anything.
I know
if
that.
You
You're
tell
a selfish
me you
guy.
care about something, I'm going to smash it.
You're going to smash me?
I'm going to teach you that it's not as important as you think, and you should laugh about it.
Okay, I understand that, but my question is that when you isolate Arabs or you isolate homosexuals, your personal feeling about that, you don't care. You don't care. Do you have anything against gay people?
If people didn't laugh, I wouldn't say it.
But do you have anything against gay people?
Now you want to blame me?
Do you have anything
You're
against gay people?
blame
Do
me.
you have anything against?
No,
you don't. Do you have anything against Arabs?
How can you be
Do
in
you?
show business?
I'm just asking you. Do you have anything against Arabs in a general way?
I understand gays better than I do Arabs.
Okay, but
I don't really
because you're being
know
associated with a type of right wing thinking that is destructive. I'm just saying, yeah.
Where'd you get your information?
I
for
just
this
read a couple
interview?
articles. There's no information.
Well, do you believe it?
I'm asking you.
I'm a comic.
Okay, but see, I think that you are a businessman, and if anything, politically, you're probably more libertarian than anything else, right?
I don't care.
You just want to make money.
No, I don't even care about that. I have 2 stents in my heart. I could die during this interview.
That would be spectacular. That would be a great interview.
It would.
I would leave it running when the
last
paramedics come.
Half an hour.
But basically you're just playing for your audience.
No, I am telling them things they'll laugh at and they enjoy.
What if it hurts people's feelings? And what if people see it as isolating and vicious? Does that bother you?
Isolating and vicious.
Sure. If you isolate a group of people and say you're all this, you're all that, it gets construed as racism or sexism.
What about
or anything
Lisa
else.
Lampanelli?
What about her? She's an angry woman who
Yeah.
talks from her own point of
About
view
black people.
that she has sex with. Are you having sex with gay men?
Who knows she has sex with
I
these
do.
guys?
I met her when she started. That's all she talked about was fucking black
If
guys.
it's the truth, you're allowed to say the
I think to a certain
N-word.
degree, yes.
I don't say the N. I don't do any black jokes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very big of you. Now, why
Wait a
don't
minute.
you? Why don't you repeat those street jokes?
There's no blacks in my audience.
So you think it would be rude?
Not one. No.
Do you think there are
nobody
homosexuals
identified.
in your audience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Did they come up to you and thank you afterwards?
No. Oh no.
What did they say to you?
They either tell me a better joke than I told, and they laugh about it. I work biker conventions.
Well, I'm sure you do.
Don't you think that there's lesbians in leather riding bikes?
No,
Let me tell you
I'm
this.
not doubting you.
I never see a guy on the back of a bike that a woman is driving.
Okay.
There
Not
are
yet.
sexual roles in America and when you break them, it's funny.
I know, but all I'm questioning is that your sensitivity to some of the flack you've gotten recently.
I'm not sensitive. I think they're all idiots.
Everybody. I think you think everyone's an idiot, right? For the most part.
If they're missing the point, I'm a comedian. I'm not running for political office.
I know, but you're speaking out loud to a group of people. And
who
if you
are
say,
drinking.
Yeah, but if you say all those people that aren't here, those people that are sensitive and trying to find their way in the world, they're all fucking
What
idiots.
is the use of humor?
What do you think?
What is the use of humor in our society?
To disarm and educate.
That's right. To release tension and aggression.
That's
if
right.
I say something about a topic that people burst into laughter about, I'm going to be the doctor, and I'm going to tell you that you have a pain there, you have an irritation, you have an inflammation, you have a problem. So the fact that the country laughs at lesbian jokes means they have a problem with it.
But to displace the humor, to attack a group of people that is already
you must
victim.
be really irritated that the House is now Republican. Can you explain this backlash?
Sure, I can.
Over the health?
Yeah, well, but it's a misinterpretation of the health plan. Right.
L.A. and New
wait a
York
minute.
has never been able to understand the middle of this country.
Wait a minute.
I
understand the Midwest. Of course I do.
You do not.
Of course I do.
Well, you better have some lesbian jokes.
No, I don't. I don't need lesbian jokes. I'm a free thinker. I don't need street jokes either. You know, I mean, a free thinker is different.
I'm a free thinker.
Sure.
Look, it's a nightclub.
I understand the context.
It's not therapy.
I understand yes, it is therapy on some level.
Not for you.
No, but if you just said to me that your job is to release aggression and disarm prejudice,
the audience.
That's
you don't
right.
Care about
then you're a therapist. Of course, I care about the audience.
No, you don't.
Of course, I do.
Do you change it when you're in Oklahoma from when you're in Portland?
Why would I?
Because they're different people.
Are people different?
Yes.
Are people really different?
I'll tell you where you can't tell.
Are people different?
Oh yeah.
You're saying that the wiring of people, someone who understands DNA, you're going to tell me that people are different.
Well, you can't tell a lesbian joke in Boston, Minneapolis, Portland, and Seattle.
Why?
Because they'll boo you.
Because why?
Their politics is different.
Their politics or their sensitivity to people who are a specific group of people that are being made fun of at the brunt of a joke to release the aggression of narrow-minded people as some sort of form of entertainment is offensive to them. That's why. So my question is, if by releasing aggression in an audience is by saying, like, the Arabs stink, they're all evil, or gays are fucked, and that releases aggression, how is it not just reaffirming fucking prejudice and intolerance in that group of people?
You think I have the power by telling a joke to rally people
to laugh
around
to laugh? You rally people to laugh at what? Because they identify with your prejudice. That's why they're laughing. I get that. I hate fags too. Is that releasing aggression in a healthy way?
Hate.
Sure.
There's not hate involved here. We're telling jokes.
Oh, there's a lot of hate and jokes. Come on, you've been doing this too long. You're an angry man. You understand
I'm
victim.
not angry.
Really? You're a guy that smashes things.
Do you think I'm mad every night?
No, I'm not
Do
saying you're
I'm
mad. I'm saying
regularly
generally.
Friday night 8 o'clock, Saturday night 8 o'clock.
No, I'm saying maybe Saturday
there's
morning.
a little acting in this.
No, I'm not denying your act is not filled with hate, but I'm saying that just the fact that
I tell 5 lesbian jokes, and you went and found an article written about me.
I'm just asking you a question.
And decided that not only will have you put me in the pigeonhole of
I'm not
being
pigeonholing
the guy
you.
that does,
I'm just asking you questions.
Smashes. No, you're not.
Of course I am.
You are working your politics.
I am not. What's my politics?
Your politics is left wing.
Okay.
You're most at home in Boston, Minneapolis.
Boston is
Seattle.
not left wing.
Oh, it is.
I'm most, but I don't talk about politics
Here's
on
Boston's
stage as much as I used to.
Is that they're.
But what I'm saying to you is, I'm a comedian, and I will push the envelope, and I understand what you're saying. But there's a difference between releasing aggression and making people look at something differently.
Why do you think I tell a really bad? I told you all the jokes I tell. I heard.
Well, I know. So that just means that you're
that's the society I'm reflecting.
Yeah, but you're also you're not even using your own material to victimize these groups of people.
Well, I don't tell them all the time either. Somebody's seen one of my shows, and out of 200 jokes, they've chosen 5 lesbian jokes or gay jokes to focus on.
The only reason I'm not concerned with I don't have a political agenda here. I'm just saying that that culturally you've got a reputation, and
So you read a couple of articles
before
this interview,
dude. I'm the guy.
No, was righter than me.
No, I just asked you the jokes, and you addressed the jokes. I put you in the context of the history of comedy. You were a profound presence on the comedy scene.
I had 14 one-hour shows.
I
must have written some original material.
I'm not saying you didn't write original material.
It's all there.
I'm just asking where you're coming from.
I
was just asking where you're coming from. That's all. I respect you as a comedian.
Do you see any lesbian jokes in my 14 one-hour shows?
No.
No.
But what happened?
One night, I told some I heard on the street, and everybody's up in arms over it.
No, but why the shift? Why did you?
It's not a shift. It's only 5 jokes. I
But-
do a 2 hour, 2.5, sometimes 3 hours. I get on at 8. I'm off at 11.
Okay.
Everybody focuses on one thing.
No, I'll focus
Because
on all of it.
I'm the problem. Do you think when I'm dead, gays will finally have an opportunity in America? Have I really been holding them down?
No, you
want
don't.
me
You
to
don't
tell
hold
you what
down.
the
No,
gays
no.
did?
Wait a minute. You don't hold gays down.
Well, then
you
what's your problem with me?
No, I don't have any problem with you. I'm just saying that you reaffirm prejudice by
Okay,
making
can
fun
we
of them.
tell a Jew joke that they don't want to pay?
Why? It's not true.
It's not true. Why do people laugh?
Because it's a stereotype that's been established. Most people that you laugh at those jokes don't even have a
So
Jew
we
in their
can't
life.
do any
I didn't
jokes
say you can
based
do
on
whatever you want. You
stereotypes.
can do whatever you
Black
want.
comedians only talk about the difference between blacks and whites.
Right. Well, there are some
Except-
stereotypes. Look, I'm a person that thinks that some stereotypes, some parts of stereotypes are obviously true.
The
Jewish
entire
ones.
act
Well, no, but if
is picking on white people that they don't do it right.
or talking about black community stuff. And I understand that there are stereotypes that
and,
fit,
and fat
but the
people
Jew and the money
only
thing.
talk about fat. There's this midget comic that only does midget jokes. I watched his whole act
Well,
one
what
night.
else is he going to do? That's his life.
No, he could be generally funny. There's a
But he's getting
comedian
laughs. But
in-
by your context, if he's getting
yeah,
laughs,
change
what the
the
hell?
subject. We're bored.
Are they if they're still laughing?
Yeah, no, there's no dynamics.
But
most comedians are terrible.
Okay.
They should listen to me,
Okay, I will hear you out.
and I help them when I can.
What is your problem with most comedians?
Well, like I just said, their show has no dynamics, and it's not a show based on their knowledge of the audience. It's a show about them. And comedy is not therapy, just because it's a truth.
Wait a minute. But if you're talking about a show about them, if you're saying that a person that talks about themselves on stage is not a comedian, then you're dismissing a great many great comics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
you're
did it wrong.
No, they didn't do it wrong.
Okay, you walk in a doctor's office, and he talks about his problems instead of
Well, that's an old joke. If a comedian talks about himself, and that is funny, if a comedian is a storyteller, by your rubric, you're dismissing.
He
you know,
can't
people.
work a state fair.
Who the fuck wants to work a state fair necessarily?
Everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
So in order to work a state fair, you have to take the Gallagher class.
You have to work faster and more general. There are families out there, and they're not interested in your long, subtle stories.
Okay, that's fine. That's a state fair circuit. But the comedy club circuit, the cabaret circuit, can indulge in different. Why can't you just see it as all being part of show business? Why are you angry?
Because there's no show involved.
What?
They're a bunch of slovenly. They hunch over. They turn their back on the audience. They take a
That's
drink
their style.
of water.
It's show business. Why are you drawing lines?
Why are you taking the other side of everything I say?
I'm not. I'm just saying
You
that
are.
I'm
Why did you want me to do this interview if you don't think I know anything about what you're asking me about?
I'm just telling.
I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done. You're just arguing. It's Howard Stern and.
I'm not. I was just having a conversation.
No, you're not.
I have
That's
more
not the
respect for
conversation.
comedy.
You're trying to be controversial.
I am not.
Yes, you are. You're just arguing with me. I have 30 years of experience.
Well, then tell me
and you
about
think
comedy.
don't know what the
I
hell
just
I'm
think that
talking
show
about.
business is show business.
Well, then why don't you do the interview and tell people your opinion?
We were having a good conversation.
No, it's.
Oh, come on, Gallagher. All right. Well, that didn't. Well, maybe it really went well. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to chase after him. So that was that. That was it. That was what happened with Gallagher and myself. And even listening to it for a third time now, what is to be brought away from this? Other than this is where a career in comedy can end up. A career in anything can end up. God knows there's plenty of people out there that are experiencing frustration because they've reached a certain age and they don't feel like they're useful anymore. There's anger there. Other than that, you make your own decisions about what you heard. You definitely see who he is. So, rest in peace, Gallagher. And, come on, Gallagher. Come on. I'm really glad that this conversation exists because it's unique, and I imagine he'll be missed by some people, but I hope this makes people remember him, fondly or not. And Godspeed, Gallagher.
Don't forget your hammer.